like now to listen between 5 to 6 minutes talk of Swamiji, and he gave that talk here in Pune. And I just listened last night, and I was so touched because he was just talking to you. And anyway, that would be a nice reminder why Ananda is here, why Swamiji is here. And it's 1 hour and a half talk. So I have just got the first 2-3 minutes, and then in the middle there is 2-3 minutes that he's also talking about India and about us, and it's just so wonderful. So let's just close our eyes and try to feel his message to each one of us.
Well, I am so happy to have this wonderful family. I am also very happy to see more and more Indians as a part of it, because of course we haven't come here to Americanize India any more than Master went to America to Indianize America. He wanted to feed them with their own innate spirituality, and the success of this work in India will depend on you Indians. The more you take hold as you are doing, the more this work can grow. We would like to fade into the background, and if we can, I will feel that our mission has been successful. Master told Daya Mata that he said India will organize itself. Well, it hasn't done so yet, but we can help it to do so. Like that story when I was a child and teaching other children to ride a bicycle. If we can get it moving, after all, we've had a lot of experience with communities and different things, but once we can get it moving, then you can take it over. You don't need feeding. You've got plenty of life of your own. You can feed us. But anyway, we're expecting. We've already put the down payment on this land in Pune, and Dr. Wani, who was here, is trying to sort of get little pieces here and there. We don't want the villagers to know that we're buying up land, because then they'll raise the price. But we're hoping that we can get at least 100 acres in all, isn't that right? And with that, we can do all the things that I have dreamed of doing here. You know, this is the important thing. This is what Jesus Christ did before he left. You see that in the Acts of the Apostles, how the disciples gathered in communities. It was certainly with his recommendation. It's what Master tried to do. If you can have small examples of right living, people look at you and they see that everybody's happy. Somebody said to me some years ago, that you have some wonderful people here. I said, if you see 1 or 2 people like that, you can say they're wonderful people. When you see everybody like that, you have to say it's what they're doing that makes them that way. And people come to us from all over the world in America because the joy and kindness and loving support of our members is becoming legendary all over the world. People see this kind of example and they will want to benefit from it. Who wants to live in selfishness and anger and competition and misery when you can live happily together? This is the real families. In coming to India, I felt that his work could be 4 times as big in India as in America because people are open to it. There are open hearts here. People understand. I find that I can lecture in India in ways that I cannot in the West. More so in Italy than in America, almost not at all in England. I remember this, I think I've told you this one too, but I was lecturing in London some years ago, and it took me half my talk to convince them I wasn't a fraud. Who wants to talk like that? And it took the other half to convince them I was partially sane. And I left them. I don't want to go back to teach there because that's too often what I've encountered in England. In America, there's much more openness of heart, but there's a lot of skepticism in the mind. And you have to address those when you talk to an audience and be prepared for any doubts that might come up, that you can answer that. Here in India, I don't have to think that way, and it's a joy, because people's hearts are open, and they've been exposed to this teaching for thousands of years, and it's in their blood. You can't get rid of it if you want to. Even the atheists that I've met here are not really atheists. They're sort of duds, you might say. Well, what I mean is that people are atheists because they don't accept a particular definition of God. But they all accept higher truths. It's just a natural thing. This is indeed, as I have said, the fountainhead of religion, this country, and the fountainhead of spirituality. And I was very glad when my guru said that someday America and India would unite, and America would represent material efficiency in a spiritual way, India would represent spiritual efficiency in a down-to-earth practical way. And these two will lead the world toward greater prosperity and happiness.
Good evening, everyone. Listening to Swami's talk, I was reminded of a funny little incident I had with Swami. We were having tea in the evening, and we were talking about various things that were happening around India and all our centers. And somewhere in the middle of that conversation, Swami stopped for a moment. He looked at me and he said, "Shurjo, I have great hopes for India." In my mind, I was expecting Swami to say, "I have great hopes for you." I was thinking, this is my moment where Swami is going to tell me. I thought this is where Swami is going to say, "You have a great work to do." Anyway, I'm happy for India. I'm glad that Swami really loved this country. And he really showed it, spending the last years of his life here. Yesterday's satsang with Dhyanaji was just so beautiful. For those of you who were here, her 30 odd years with Swamiji, all that experience, she had so much to share. I've had the opportunity, the blessing to spend 7 months with Swami. It certainly pales against the 30 years that Dhyanaji got with him. But really for me, it's been such an opportunity, such a blessing. I was thinking about it, and it's almost like a little fan suddenly of Sachin Tendulkar, and he says, "Come stay with me for 7 months." I mean, how much happy that little kid would be just to know that he can go and spend this time with his hero. The only difference would be that I think in 5 days the kid would no longer be a fan of Sachin Tendulkar, because he'd realize that Sachin Tendulkar has his own set of problems and he's just another regular guy. But the difference with Swami Kriyananda was the more time you spent with him, the more you got to observe him, the more you realized what a great man he was, what a wonderful disciple. It's one thing to know that in public he could speak well, he had great energy, he had great charisma, but it's another thing to see that even when he was at home, no matter what he did, all he did was think about his guru. All he did was think about how he could serve his guru, how he could serve others. It was another world. It's another world to experience. That's what it means to be a disciple. All this while, I used to think, if I can make it to morning meditation 3 times in a row, I'm a good disciple. But then you realize that you're nowhere close. There's a long way to go. There's so much more to do. The very fact that we have idle time shows that we're not utilizing all our time to serve our guru. And Swami Kriyananda, he did this perfectly. He never strained himself in any way. He never was pretentious that he had to do it in large ways. He was always serving his guru in the smallest of ways, especially when he was trying to help people. And being around him a little bit, I got to be part of that help. He got to help me a little bit. Once when, I've mentioned this before, but we were sitting again for tea. A lot happens over tea with Swamiji. And he said, it's really, really expensive. We were making the film The Answer, and Juliet was initially going to play the role of the seeker in the film The Answer. But Swami suddenly, he said, it's really expensive to bring Juliet over here, and then pay her all this astronomical fees. It's better if we can just find someone within the congregation to play this role. And he said, Shurjo, what do you think? You think you could play the role of a seeker? So I said, well, sir, I could try. He says, well, I've written this role very specifically, and the person must have a lot of devotion. And I said, well, sir, I don't know if I have a lot of devotion, but I think I could make it. He says, well, you're going to have to clutch the autobiography in your hand. When you see me lecture, you're going to have tears in your eyes. And I was just, the more he was telling me, the more I was like, I don't think I could do this. Swami knew devotion wasn't a very major part of my spiritual life. I was a very intellectual person. I came to the spiritual path through the intellect, understanding the world as it not giving me what I was looking for, and therefore I must turn to something else. And so he knew that I needed more devotion. And so just very sweetly, without making a big deal out of it, without saying, Shurjo, you don't have devotion, therefore I'm going to give you this role. Just like, oh, we don't have enough money, so we might as well save money by putting Shurjo in this role. It's just very sweet. One thing that Dhyanaji mentioned, and anyone who's ever been with Swami will tell you, is that being around him meant you have to have a lot of energy. Your energy really needs to be up and high. And those 7 months that I spent with Swami were the most intense and exhausting months of my life. And it's not like I did a lot, but just being in his presence, you really had to put out a lot of energy, never to let your thoughts drift, never to start thinking about other things, because the moment you do that, he would catch me and be like, Shurjo, have you read this book of mine? Yes, sir. Which part did you like the best? So he'd always be throwing questions at you the moment he felt that you're drifting away somewhere, or somehow your mind's no longer in a higher consciousness. Every time he'd always pose challenges to people, trying to help them to always raise their energies. When I first met Swamiji after Narayani and I got together, he was writing these online lessons for meditation. And he wrote 52 of these lessons in less than 2 months. And so the moment he finished these lessons, he says, now how are we going to get these lessons out? So I said, sir, I think, if we put them online, I think that will be... Initially, he thought he'll send them as correspondence, the way SRF does it. And I said, sir, I think if you put it online, I think you'll be able to reach more people. And he says, that's a great idea. So he said, so you work on this, you figure out how you're going to get it online. Now, of course, I knew nothing about the web. I didn't know how to start anything. And he's like, okay, make a pamphlet, write all the material, I want you to do this. Also the energization exercises, that chapter I haven't written on because everyone knows it. So I want you to write that chapter. And after that, the moment you're done from that chapter, we're going to film you doing the energization exercises. And I was just like, the moment you show any willingness to put some energy out, Swami says, here, take more. Have an opportunity to always raise your energy. Have an opportunity to allow Master to flow through you. And so, of course, I frantically was running around, and every time I would meet Swami after that, he was like, so is the website done? I was like, sir, you just told me this morning. I've just started putting my mind around it. He's like, okay, and then the next day, is the chapter done? Like, so he's just like, never doesn't give you, not because he wants you to constantly, keep you moving or to keep you busy. He knows that when you're busy, when you're serving Master, that's when Master's flowing through you. As Master said, to be in tune with me, serve my work. And Swami knew that's the best way to be in tune, to serve his work, to serve Master's work. And finally, we got the website done. Finally, we got it all figured out, how we're going to get people to come on it. Amit from Gurgaon, who was with us, he helped me a lot, and Roby helped in designing all the brochures and everything. So I didn't do anything. I just, put some people together. And then the moment the website was online, Swami said, how many people do we have? I said, sir, one me. I only tested it too. And then every day he would ask me, how many people do we have? How many people? He wanted to know what's going on, how much energy. It's not that you've done a project and it's done. You have to think about that project. You have to find ways to keep moving that project. You have to put your heart into a project the way Swami did. Nothing that he did was half-hearted. Everything he did, he said he put everything into it. Once it was done, once he knew it had accomplished the energy he needed to, that's when he could move on to another. Until that time, he just stayed with that project. And so slowly now, we have around 300, 400 people subscribing to those lessons. So I'm sure I hope he's happy with that. But there's many more to reach. Another thing, being with Swami, as I was saying, it really, to know what it means to be a disciple. And I was saying, if I can get to morning meditation, I think I'm a good disciple. Once when we were in Goa, Swami just sat Narayani and me down, and he said to me, he said, Shurjo, how many kriyas do you do? I said, well, so 60 on an average. And he says, I'm very sorry that I cannot be a better example to you of doing more meditation. He says, I'm really old. When I was young, I could meditate 5-6 hours a day. But now I'm really old, so I can't meditate as much. So I'm sorry I can't give you that example. And I felt so bad. I was like, oh my God. Rather than saying, Shurjo, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing so few kriyas? What about your meditations? Think about your salvation. He took it on himself. He said, I feel so bad that I can't be an example for you. Therefore, you're not meditating as much as you could. Anyway, it was just to feel that love from Swami, to know that all he's trying to do is to help us achieve our highest potential. Swami once said in a satsang, he says, I'm not here to serve others. He says, I'm here to make them serve Master. And in the process, if they happen to benefit from that, he says, who am I to, make claim that I was part of that benefit? It's like they've benefited through that process. So he was never trying to be the one to say, oh, I'm here to serve you, let me do whatever, and in the process, maybe you will benefit. He was always trying to help us do what we could do to our highest, and then he would let Master take care of us. Towards the end of his life, and we'll read a letter that Swami wrote just 3 weeks before he passed. It was his Easter message to all of us. The letter's a little strong, especially for those who know Swamiji, but it really says a lot about what he was going through at that time and how a deep longing he had to merge back with God and to meet Master once more. But even when he was in Assisi, he was really tired all the time. His heart was giving him a lot of trouble. He would fall very often. Many times he fell, he bruised his arm, and he just swelled up completely. He had to remove all his rings and all his astrological bangles because his arm had completely swollen and was completely red. Swami's blood had to be thinned because of a heart condition that he had. So he had to take medicines. In fact, talking about his blood thinning, we have a devotee in Assisi. Some of you might know him. His name is Narya. He's been here before. He's a wonderful, wonderful devotee, a long-time devotee. He told this very, very sweet story of Swami's. He said maybe around 10 years ago, Swami was in Assisi. And Swami used to take medication to thin his blood. And so once he took an overdose for some reason, or, maybe the medicine he had wasn't the right grammage or whatever. So he took a lot, more than he should have. And his blood became extremely thin and he started turning blue. Everywhere you touch, it just become like neel par jata hai. And and no one was at home. So he called Narya. Narya lives just next to Swami's house. And Narya comes running. And Narya says, oh, Swami, let's rush you to the hospital. And Swami wasn't worried, or he says, I don't know what's happening to me. He was just touching himself and every part was becoming blue. And Narya was like, Swami, we need to get you to the hospital right now. And he's like, they rush him to the hospital, and the hospital was extremely busy. There was no room for him. And Narya was just frantic, and he said, just give him any room. We need him to rest. Look at him. He's just completely blue. And so a nurse said, I have a storeroom, and that's the only available room. So Narya said, let's just get him wherever. And so they go into the storeroom, they clear out this little storeroom, and they put 2 little beds, one of those wheel beds. They're really narrow. And so they put 2 little beds, and the nurse said, you stay overnight, and tomorrow the doctor will come, and he'll look at you. So Narya said, Swami, I'll stay with you. And Narya is a big, big man. So he gets Swami onto this little bed, and then he gets himself onto the other little bed. And all throughout the night, he's thinking, I need to make sure Swami doesn't fall. So he's just thinking about that over and over. I need to make sure Swami doesn't fall. It's my responsibility. And somewhere along that thought process, he drifts away and he falls asleep. And when he wakes up in the morning or whatever, he sees Swami sitting next to him, holding him like this. And Swami says, I just wanted to make sure you don't fall. So, anyway, how sweet, how sweet. Wait, before I give you the letter, I just wanted to tell you one last little experience I had with Swami. Just very sweet and really, again, touches you to see how much he's trying to help each one of us without making a fuss out of it. And I might have told you this story before. I don't have that many stories, in 7 months. I wish I had more, and I'm sure more will come as I realize the lessons behind every little glance of Swami's. But we were at the Meridian Hotel, and during Swami's travels, this time in India, where he went to 6-7 cities, we always first stopped at the Meridian Hotel, and then we would go further, because the drive from the land to the city itself would be enough to wipe Swami out. So he would need a day's rest always. So we would come from the city, from the land, stay a night, then go on to the city. Then we'd come back, we'd stay a night, and then go to the land. That was the practice we had to do, because Swami's body just couldn't take all that travel. So we essentially, in that 6 months, we must have stayed at the Meridian maybe 12 times. And so the second time when we had first initially gone there, Swami, he loves color. He loves to go into shops with a lot of color. And so Kashmiri shops really attract him a lot. A lot of beautiful carpets and, a lot of beautiful, intricate work. So there was a shop in the Meridian Hotel of a Kashmiri. And so Swami said, let's go down to that shop. And so we went down to this shop. And Swami, as he always is, he loves to strike up a conversation and start showing everything that he has to that man. So he started showing all his, astrological gems. He says, and this one I got over here, and this one's over here, and this one I got over here. And this man, for some reason, he's just like, that's not a good stone. I'll give you a much better stone. No matter what Swami says, he's like, oh, what a bad. Swami says, look at this aquamarine what a bad aquamarine. Whatever Swami said, this man was just really trying to show off a little, but also in a very dismissive way. But Swami, the way he was really sweet. And he ended up buying something from this man. And he said, I'm going to go and buy another stone because I want to give an aquamarine. He gave his aquamarine to Narayani as a wedding present. And so he wanted to buy another aquamarine. And so this man said, I'll get you one. Swami said, no, I know a place and I'll buy it from there. But so and the man said, when are you coming next to the hotel? And Swami very happily, we'll be here on this date, and we'll be in this room and all that stuff. So when we come back, Swami's bought his, aquamarine. And we come back, and this man called Swami's room because he knew when Swami was coming. And he said, Swamiji, I've bought an aquamarine and you have to buy it. Or actually he bought a sapphire. He says, you have to buy it because I bought it for you, because you told me that, and so I was just and I picked up the phone because obviously Swami couldn't hear. And I said, we're not interested. We've bought it. And Swami's like, who is it? I said, Swami's that guy. What does he have? Anyway, so eventually this guy comes up and he's showing Swami all his gems, and Swami shows him the new thing he bought, and he immediately says, this is a fake and this is a very bad, and look at the imperfections. And Swami says, okay, what do you have? And this man, he says, look, I have this, I have that. And Swami says, okay, I'll buy this from you. And all this while, I'm just getting really angry at this man. Just what's wrong with him? Why is he so pushy? And and I don't want to say anything in front of Swami. And then Swami says, I don't have enough money. So, Shurjo, do you have money? I said, sir, I don't have it on me right now, but I have it in my ATM. Why don't you go with this man ATM and withdraw, the money? And I was like, Lord, I'm already really angry at this guy. So I said, okay, sir. I go on the bike and we go. We withdraw the money, and I'm just silent. I'm not talking to this guy at all. And he's trying to ask me, engage me. Anyway, we come back, I pay him. It's over. Next time we go to the Meridian, so let's go see that guy. I said, Swami, we've bought everything we can from him. There's nothing else. He's like, no, let's just go. And he goes to the guy again. He's talking, and again he's buying all these useless things. I was like, and this guy is just taking so much advantage of Swami. He knows Swami is so sweet, and he's just pushing more and more and more. And in me, there's just anger and hatred. Just all the bad feelings you can have just growing in my heart. And then finally the tipping point, Swami pays with his credit card and he takes out this pen. He's got this beautiful Swarovski pen with all these Swarovski crystals. Really expensive, really beautiful. He takes it out to sign and this man says, Swamiji, give me that pen. And I say, Swami, you don't have to give him that pen. He's like, Swamiji, please, it's a beautiful pen, please give me this pen. Swami says, okay. He just hands this guy this pen. I was like, oh my God. I mean, if a devotee had this pen, he would cherish this pen. Swami kept it next to his heart in his coat pocket. It's a beautiful pen. And I was just getting so angry at this man. And then as we were walking out, Swami just said, if anyone asks me for anything, I must give it away. Because, that's my life. And anyway, somewhere along that line, along the way, I realized that, maybe there's something going on over here. Maybe there's something this man needs and Swami's helping him. And through that understanding, somehow, I was able to quench all this anger that was growing within me. And then the next time we come to the hotel, and Swami says, let's go see that guy. And by this time, I'd accepted it. I said, there's some karmic bond between him and Swami. It's fine. And I go, his shop is locked. The next time he comes, let's go see this guy. I go, his shop is locked. Every time after that we went, he was never there. And really after a while I realized that, Swami was just playing this out for me. The more anger I had towards the man, the more Swami gave him love, the more he bought things from him, and the more anger I got, the more he came to him, the moment I was able to let go of that, we just never had to see him again. And I was just like, in order so that all the negative energy that I was putting out, Swami was constantly trying to block it with his positive energy so it doesn't come back to me. It was a very sweet lesson for me, and just how in these little ways, never saying anything, never openly admitting to what he knows, what he doesn't know, how he's helping us. He was just always thinking about us. Anyway, now I'd like to end with this letter. I hope you enjoy it as we did when Swami wrote it. Really. Tell you something more, Narayani? I'm going to let Narayani tell you more. I've already taken up more of my allotted time. This letter, as I said, Swami wrote for Easter. And Easter, as most of you will know, is the time when Jesus resurrected himself 3 days after he was crucified. So the letter goes, Dear ones, I wish I could bless each and every one of you with a happy Easter. Easter is a time symbolizing the eventual resurrection of our little individual selves into the one infinite self. I suggest at this time particularly that you study and meditate on the photograph of Master titled The Last Smile. And consider this amazing fact. He knew that in just a few moments he would be leaving his physical body forever. There is no thought of self in his eyes, of personal regret or sorrow. Clearly visible in his eyes and in his facial expression is his unconditional love for all mankind. His readiness to return again and again, as he put it, as long as one stray brother sits weeping by the wayside. Such love for ego-centered humanity is not even conceivable. And this was the love Jesus too felt for all humanity. People weep for him and his suffering on the cross. His suffering was only for humanity that blindly rejects God's love and substitutes for it vengefulness and hatred. I have been going through a personal Armageddon. Nothing in this world attracts me anymore. Nothing at all holds any pleasant memories. None of those experiences, whether interpersonal or outward in any way, holds the slightest attraction for me. Must I really live another 5 years, as has been predicted for me? I confess the very idea appalls me. I have done so much in my life to please God. The very hallmark of my nature has been enthusiasm, even though I've always felt aware that I could never really accomplish anything significant in this world. Suddenly now, I feel bereft of that enthusiasm. Maybe it's because my heart feels tired. I want only to merge in God. The only lingering thought is that I would like to bring all of you with me. No, I am far from tired of you. I want only your freedom in God. But no, your worldly attachments, identities and desires, I have to confess, mean simply nothing to me, as my own mean nothing to me. No, this doesn't mean I love you less. I love you much more, for I love that part of you which is eternally real. But whether I succeed or fail in my projects is meaningless to me. All the things I once considered pleasurable are to me now displeasing. I want nothing that this world has to offer. People tell me I am famous. That phrase to me is also meaningless. People often marvel at all I have been able to accomplish in this life. To me, it all seems only dust. If we must resurrect our souls, let it be from the delusion that anything in this cosmic dream holds some worthwhile reality for us. We are children of God. That is our soul reality. Love, Swami.
This week, I knew that it was Easter, and I really wanted to tune into Christ, life, Christ consciousness, and especially because this year was reminding me a lot about Swami's passing, so I wanted to do experiment this week. So I prayed to Jesus, I just want to be in tune with you this whole week. Let me try to feel your teachings. Let me try to feel your presence. And through that, maybe I can feel even Swami's passing much more, the meaning of his passing. So I wanted to experiment how this week will be. And very, very interesting. I mean, the whole week has been amazing in many ways, but this is another subject in itself. This morning, we had a meditation, 3 hours meditation for Swamiji. Before that, so during this week, I was trying to pray to Jesus. When I was in meditation, I was trying to meditate about his vibrations, his presence, but at the same time, Swamiji's consciousness was coming in my meditation. I wanted also to feel his presence, and at the same time, I wanted to feel Master's presence. So I had these 3 consciousness try to just come into my, daily mind. And I was trying to tune in which of the 3 of those. I just find myself, okay, Swami, Jesus, Master. Who of the 3? So I had this kind of, it was very subtle, but it was there. Then this morning, in the meditation, we had a 3 hours meditation in honor to Swami's passing, and it was just wonderful. It was so wonderful. And we end the meditation with a flower offering. So when my turn came, I just found myself like, okay, where I'm going? Should I go to Swami's shoes? Should I go to Master? Should I go? So I found myself in this funny thinking. And then I thought something must be here. And then the moment came, that chapter when Swamiji asked Master, Master, were you Jesus Christ in a previous incarnation? And Master answered, what difference does it make? I understood it. I think I realized what he meant, and I had no problem at all. I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. Swamiji, Master, and Jesus, they have become one in the light. What difference does it make? Swamiji is not a person anymore. He's not a form. Jesus is not a person anymore. Master is not in the body anymore. They are just consciousness, and the same consciousness. In fact, I asked Blazy to put the picture of Jesus, and I would like for you just to see briefly Swamiji's face, Jesus' face, and Master's face doesn't have the same vibration coming out of the picture. I mean, for me, it just was wonderful to have that feeling in my heart that the three of them are one. There is no difference. There is not Swamiji in his blue robe. No, there is not anymore. He's beyond that. And the three of them are one in the light. Anyway, for me, it was a wonderful realization that when Swamiji says this many times, I read in Master, but I never quite click, and this morning happened, and it's just so wonderful to feel, that the great gurus, the great avatars, saints who go back to their gurus, they become one with them. And Swamiji, he came with a mission. He came with a destiny. And he said, I only had 2 desires in life. Only 2. To find God, to find truth, and to help others to find it. Isn't it amazing? Only those 2 desires? I mean, when I came up here, one of the first things I told Shurjo, maybe after the satsang, can we go to Naturals for some ice cream? And I thought, oh my gosh. But, at least, it's an ice cream. It's not something I can fulfill it with the joy of God. But made me realize ever more deeply, only 2 desires, not even his own personal desires, to find God and to help others to find him. And I think that intense desire was what brought him to Master at age of 22. What an incredible intensity of that desire to attract you to an avatar, to your own guru at 22. And he came. I was reading the other day, and Swamiji also mentioned that when Swamiji arrived to Master, just only 5 months after Swamiji's arrival, Master called one of the monks to have a meeting with him about India. And Master invites Swamiji, only with 5 months being on the path. And he said, no, you just come to this meeting because I want to speak about my plans for India, what I would like to do, what I envision in India. So Master says, Walter, you can come to this meeting too. Only 5 months after he came. So Swamiji said that in that meeting, Master was talking about what the things that needed to be done. We should send self-realization lessons, and we should do this, we should do that. And Swamiji was writing all those things just only 5 months after he came to Master. So he had plans. And then at some point when that meeting ends, Master told Swamiji, I have great plans for you, Walters. And Swamiji said, he never told me I had great plans for you in India. But Swamiji said, I intuitively felt that he was telling me that I have great plans for you in India. Not any plan, divine plan. He came for a mission. Then Swamiji also said that in other meeting he invited two other monks, and they were saying the work in Europe, how he will be. And Master was counseling this other monk, and then at some point he stopped and he looked at Swamiji and said, Walter, maybe sometime I will send you there too. And Swamiji thought, oh my God, he's going to send me to Europe. So we can see how Master already had a huge vision for Swamiji and great expectation. Master telling Swamiji, every man has disappointed me, and you mustn't disappoint me. Just imagine, can't you imagine your own avatar telling you, you mustn't disappoint me, from every single man except Rajarsi Janakananda? Every man has disappointed me, and you mustn't. Imagine what a huge responsibility for Swamiji. If my guru, an avatar tells you that, you take those words in your heart. So from then on, Swamiji said that he always tried to be in tune with Master. Everything that he said, everything that he did, wanted to make sure that it was in perfect tune with Master. Swamiji also said that Master told him, God won't come to you until the end of your life. Final will be death itself will be your final sacrifice. And certainly, God came to him at the end of his life. It was a promise. So it's why I was saying, Swamiji is now one with God, one with Master, one with Jesus. He's free. He has found God in this lifetime. And we are part of that ray of freedom. One thing that also, that it touched my heart so much, because Swamiji, he has written this many times, but it was a moment where the two of us were together alone. And he said, Master told me that I pleased him very much before he died. And those have been an anchor in my life. Every test, every betray that I had, every difficult situation, I anchor myself to those words. Walter, you have pleased me very much. Don't you think that Master didn't know before, for all the tests that Swamiji had to go through? Of course he knew. And still, he told him, you have pleased me very much. So I have no doubt that Swamiji has done even more that has been asked of him. Swami really loved to go to psychics and readings and astrology, because for him was very fascinating, that world, even though he knew that, having a guru, you don't need any of those things anymore. But he always wanted, just out of curiosity. And all those, readings that I was present there, it was very interesting, because all of them always say that his soul, this incarnation, he has done even more that has been asked to him. Even more. So he has gone beyond of God's will. It's just amazing just to think about how, Swami's life. And just coming back to what Shurjo was saying about being with him, it was just amazing, really. I think it was the most blessed 4 years of my life, and I think, I will need all this lifetime to digest and to assimilate what I have gone through. Not for any special thing, but just to be in his presence, what Shurjo was saying. I remember when I started serving him, the first 2 weeks, I had, every time I would just give it tea or something, I had to go right away to my room to sleep, just only being in his presence. It will take me all my awareness, my focus, my concentration, because he was living here all the time. And I used to live here. So to match him, it's a big jump here. So, for me, it was gradual. I had to go to sleep every time I was surfing, because it was so much energy. I wasn't able to handle it. And one of the, even daily, I remember one time, it was just 2 years ago, we were in Assisi. And actually, I was so tired. All this traveling and taking care of him and always bringing up, sitting, standing up, He had a huge weight, bringing helping with the stairs, putting him to bed, waking up in the morning, putting him in the bathroom. It was a lot of physical effort. Plus, psychologically try to be in tune, what he wanted to do every day, which person he wanted to meet, what kind of, you have to be right there. You have to be really, really awake. And one of the days, it was like a very, very intense week. He was writing a book at the same time he was giving interviews, plus he was giving satsangs and assist. So it was so much. I think it was the time when the movie was starting to happen, so the director was also coming. I mean, crazy. I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I could just disappear, go into my room just for a few hours. I just need a break. So anyway, I just put him into bed. And I just say, okay, great, I have 1 hour. So when I was going to Narayani, so anyway, okay, what he wants. So he stand up and said, no, help me this, help me that. And I was in my mind, I'm just exhausted. So I started sneezing. Not because I wanted to, but suddenly I started sneezing. And I was carrying him, and sneezing, and we walking, and sneezing, and walking the two of us, and sneezing. And then at some point I was thinking on the back of my mind, oh, this is so wonderful. I think I'm going to get a call. So it's a perfect time just to be in bed. I may call Miriam. Maybe she could come, and I will just have to. I was having all these thoughts in mind. And at some point we were walking, and he just stops, look at me, and he said, can't you just use your willpower? And I was shocked. Really, I was shocked. I thought, oh my gosh. This is really serious. So to that extent, Swamiji was working with us. If you are here, you have to be your energy like this. You cannot find little excuses. You have to face. What Shurjo was saying. To be a disciple, it takes all your energy. There is no little things, oh, maybe I could have my time. No, you have to be right there. And just finishing, because I don't want to get too late. So when Shurjo was saying that the story of the Le Meridian, that I was a witnesses, and I had so much fun between Swamiji, Shurjo, and that guy, because by then, after 3-4 years going to holidays with Swamiji, I started understanding how he worked with people. At the beginning I was so frustrated. Swami, why you spend so much money in these carpets? And now those carpets are the ones that we use for meditation, everybody, so anyway, I can see now so many things that I understood before. So anyway, by that time, at the end, I understood how he will work with people, when he will give money, to people, or he will buy unnecessary, ridiculous things that, no one will ever buy them, but he will buy it. And, we were in the Meridian, and I could see really Shurjo getting like, oh my gosh, because I was also, that guy was really, really nasty. He wasn't loving at all, and I was also suffering somehow, because I was thinking, this is going too far. This guy is not realizing he's in front of a saint. Still taking, and Swami giving, and Shurjo, and, and Swami even giving more, give me a hug. And I was holding Swami and was watching Shurjo, watching the guy, okay. One of the funny stories too is like, Shurjo has not mentioned, but he had to go with the guy in the bike, so they had to be both of them totally together, because they didn't have any vehicle. Frankly, I could see the whole picture, what was going on. And in one way I was having fun, but my human aspect too, I was a little bit, why Swami has to give so much energy, this guy is going way far. So then Shurjo left, or maybe he was there too, and he went to the other side of the shop. So the guy starts selling all these bracelets, all these, shawls, scarf, all these things. And Swami, look at them. Do you like it? No, Swami, I don't like it. Okay, send me this color, show me that. Do you like it? No, Swami, I don't like it. You don't need to buy, because I just wanted to get out of there. Say, no, Swami, I don't need anything. Say, okay. So I don't know what happened, and then he bought many things. And anyway, I just felt, it was a great lesson for me, because I really, at the end, I just let it go, I surrender, and at the end I tried to, even like the guy, because I thought, Swami is really trying to give him something that no one ever in his lifetime is going to give him. So why don't let Swamiji do his job? So I found myself removing completely from the picture, from that karmic energy what's going on between them, and I thought it was resolved in my heart. So anyway, the time goes by. That was February or so, and then we come back to Pune, to the community, and March, the mahasamadhi, many people came. It's my birthday. So Swami was so excited because he said, it's your birthday. I have bought many things for you. Really? What kind of things? So he went to the room. He was just so joyful bringing all this back. And I stand up and it was the scarf that I rejected. I stand up and it was the bracelet. For me, those are the most precious gift that he has ever gave me. Because he was telling me, take and accept everybody as they are. I'm bringing into you, bring them into your life, embracing them, wear them, and just go beyond that and accept them, and love people as they are. And every time, that I like to wear those things often, because it's reminded one of those, great lessons that we really need to accept people as they are, just help them, give them love. And I just wanted to finish because, I think all of you have so many stories about Swamiji. Really, it's not that much who will spend more time with him, who will spend less time with him, if I was close to him or not. Really, it's not that anymore. I mean, Swami is beyond that. And from now on, many of you will have even deeper experience that I had with him, if I have any, And so Swamiji is reachable to everyone, So, and this is, I would like to mention too, we need to keep Swamiji alive. We need to keep presence constantly alive. And this is one of the reasons because I felt inspired to do that book, which I think just came from Swami because I wasn't thinking at all to write a book. I'm so busy already with many other things. But it's something that's going to help us, to each one of us, to keep his spirit alive. Thanks to Swamiji, that he told so many stories about Master. I mean, I know Master thanks to all the stories that Swami said about miracles and how he was. If Swami wouldn't have said anything or writing all those books, really, I don't think even I will know who Master will be. And it will be something that we could contribute to, for people who will come in the future and they don't know Swamiji that much. But if they have, we have books to offer to them, we share our stories with them, they will be so grateful to have those. So I encourage each one of you, please, if you had any even minimal exchange with Swamiji, any dream, any feeling, any contact, any lesson, just send to us and to me, and let's try to put all that book together. It's not my book, really. It's our book together. So let's try to make it happen. Let's try to start giving energy. I know all of us are very busy, but at least start thinking about it, because that will bring also Swamiji into our lives, just thinking about it.